I'll let you know the 6 most common mistakes people, including me, make. I'll teach you how to write a fun and engaging email. I'll teach you, most importantly, how to harness social media to really maximise the results in your campaign. And then we'll finish off with a really cool case study from Ariana from Hypoxia Australia, who I'll introduce to you later. Okay, so we all make mistakes, don't we? I've certainly made a lot, and it could be that the purpose of your life is only to serve as a warning to others. Now, for the sake of email marketing, I'll be the guy in the yellow jersey today, because I've seen all the mistakes and I've made most of them. Now, mistake number 1, I'm sure you've got emails from an email address like this that do not reply. Now, what's your first impression when you receive an email from something like that? Of course, it's that they don't want to listen. Now picture this, you're going on a first date, and imagine you wear earmuffs to that first date. What sort of impression are you going to make with the person you're on the date with? And that's exactly the same impression you make with people when you send an email from these addresses, because you're basically saying to them, I want you to listen to me, but I'm not prepared to listen to you. So definitely avoid that. Mistake number 2 is fibbing. So every time that you do something that they are not expecting or they don't want, or every time that you don't deliver something that you promised, your nose grows a little bit longer and that trust is eroded with your database. So the more that trust is eroded, the more likely they will be to unsubscribe, or worse still, just to let your emails get delivered but not actually opened. Okay, the 3rd mistake people make is writing me copy, and it's forgetting the fundamental rule that readers are most interested in what's in it for me. So if you forget that readers are after what's in it for me, that's when you can come undone. And a simple example is, here's an example of me copy. I recently went in a fundraiser and I raised $1,000 for charity. Now, the way to put that into you copy is, your support in the recent fundraiser was truly appreciated. You helped raise $1,000. So it's only a subtle difference, but it makes all the difference when you're engaging with your readers. Mistake number 4 is, I think Evan touched on it before, but when you send something that's entirely a JPEG and you haven't gone to the effort of actually putting it into HTML, you know, all that effort with the creative, with the content, putting all those wonderful ideas into a newsletter can be wasted when you just send it in a JPEG, because that's how it gets delivered. The 5th mistake people make is having broken emails, and that's a result of not actually testing your emails properly. So Hotmail's a really bad culprit for this. It will somehow manage to break every single email that you send, so you've got to test it, particularly with Hotmail. And if you are doing each of your newsletters off a template each time, it's important to make sure that you actually put in the proper subject lines and put in the actual copy, because it's amazing how many times I've actually received emails where it's still got that dummy content in there. And finally, the 6th mistake, Evan touched on it earlier, but a neglected subject line. According to Vision 6's metrics report, roughly 20% of people open emails. Now that leaves 80% who don't read them. But those 80% of people do actually receive the email in your inbox, but they don't actually open it. And as we know from Twitter, there's a hell of a lot of message you can communicate in a short number of characters. So it's really important to keep in mind what you're going to communicate on your subject line. And in a couple of minutes I'll reveal to you what we've learned from testing various subject lines over the last 4.5 years. Okay, so here's an example of how the Blue Wire Media newsletter has evolved over the last 4.5 years. Blue Wire Media is a web design company, originally started in Brisbane, but we're now down in Sydney as well. And picture this, we're at the end of our first year in business, and we've been building up the database, all of it new for this first email campaign. And I've written all the content, proofread it about 20 times, and finally mustered up the courage to hit the send button, which I tell you what, is quite nerve-wracking for me. I finally hit send and then relaxed, sat down and then waited for the email to come into my inbox. Except when I read it, it said Dear Adam, and then the penny dropped. I'd sent Dear Adam to the entire database. So that was okay for the 3 people in the database called Adam, but not so cool for the rest. And not a good look when we're claiming to be a web design company. So of course you feel like a bit of a goose when that happens, and I had to immediately send another email to the entire database saying, oops, I know I stuffed it up, I made a big mistake, but you know, this is what I meant to send. So it happens, it's really easy to do, so do test it, and you do make mistakes. But if you do make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Own up to it and move on pretty quickly.